Welcome to the City of Battle Creek, Michigan, and the Battle Creek City Commission meeting for April 19th, 2022. It is a couple of minutes after 7 p.m. We will have a moment of silence for our invocation, so if you're able to stand for the invocation, feel free to. And we'll have a Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like to call upon Commissioner Lance to lead us in the pledge. At this period of time, please stand. Everyone's standing already.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for being here. It's been a long time since we've seen a crowd like this, so thank you for your patience. First item on our agenda is the roll call. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
Commissioner Blood?
Present.
Vice Mayor Ferris?
Here.
Commissioner Herring?
Here.
Commissioner Lance?
Here.
Mayor Banky?
Here.
Commissioner Morris?
Present.
Commissioner Reynolds?
Present.
Commissioner Sophia?
Here.
Commissioner Zenda Wilson?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All the commissioners are here 100%. Next item on our agenda is our proclamations and awards. And our first one will be the Earth Week. And Patty Hauk-Mellish, did I pronounce that correctly, Patty? Or close? All right, thank you. I'd like to ask you to come forward. Then once we're done, we're going to ask Todd Everson to come forward for the Arbor Day. Thank you very much, Patty. I'd like to start out by giving you the microphone and just tell us a little bit about Earth Week and some of the things that you've organized in the community so that the public will be able to find out. And then I'll make the presentation of the proclamation.
Thank you. Well, Earth Week, Earth Day is actually Friday, and Earth Week, we started this last year as a linear park cleanup, so groups can come in on their own time and come and pick up litter, clean up the parks, clean up the linear park. And this year we have about 200 volunteers representing individuals, businesses, and service groups. So a big thanks to all the volunteers out there spending their time cleaning up the city. And I want to thank Bessie Steer. She's a big part of this organization. So.
Well, please allow me to read the proclamation. Excuse me. Whereas Earth Day was first celebrated on April 22nd, 1970, with the goal of inspiring an appreciation of our nation's natural resources through conservation and protection. And whereas Earth Day marks a global recognition of humans' interconnectivity to all other forms of life and environment on which we all depend and inspire a renewed commitment to environmental stewardship and to the implementation of sustainability efforts. And whereas the global community now faces an extraordinary challenges such as global health crisis, environmental degradation, climate change, food and water shortages, and whereas it is understood that the citizens of the global community must step forward and take action to create immediate positive environmental change to combat the aforementioned global challenges. And whereas Earth Day is an annual reminder of the constant need for environmental activism, stewardship commitments, and sustainability efforts. And whereas the City of Battle Creek and the residents are encouraged to take part in the organized Earth Week cleanup activities that Patty just spoke about around the city from April 18th through the 24th, 2022. Therefore, on behalf of the citizens of the city of Battle Creek, we do hereby proclaim April 28th through 24th, 2022 as Earth Week in the greater Battle Creek area, and we urge all residents, businesses, and institutions to use Earth Week to celebrate the earth and promote its conservation and protection. Individuals or groups can sign up for a section of the linear park, to clean up at your own pace on your own schedule during this week. The city will provide the supplies for volunteers and pick up the collected trash at the end of the week. Once again, I want to thank the Department of Public Works and all their employees that went to the extent to organize a very unique program for the city of Battle Creek. And I encourage all residents, if you have the time or the capability to participate, just to show how we can make a difference in our Battle Creek community. On behalf of the City Commission, Patty, we'd like to give this to you, and I hope you will share it with the rest of the employees that are working so diligently.
No, it's not at all.
Way back, my cousin and Todd went to high school together. And so when he got a job at the city of Battle Creek, I was really happy for him. I never thought he'd stay this long. Todd, how long do you stay to the city now?
Okay.
God bless you. Thank you very much. Why don't you just tell us a little about your organization and what you plan on doing, just like Patty just did.
So the City of Battle Creek, this is our 22nd consecutive year that we've been Tree City USA awarded. On Earth Day, or not Earth Day, I'm sorry, Arbor Day, which is next Friday, the 29th, we'll be planting 6 trees at Post Park. I'd like to really thank the Lila Arboretum Society with Brett Myers and his staff, the city staff, and also the Kellogg Go Green team, I think they're called, which has provided funding for this. So it's been a really good last couple of years. We've planted a ton of trees. Thanks to Patty and her staff, she's been getting grants too. And you can just see along the linear paths we've had last fall. I think we planted like 25 trees, and so it's been a great program. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Todd. We appreciate your leadership too. And I know that we're going to be talking about something on our agenda tonight that will assist the city of Battle Creek a little bit further. Please allow me to read a little bit shorter proclamation than Patty's. Whereas the importance of trees and the quality of the environment is recognized by designation of April 29th, 2022 as National Arbor Day. And whereas Arbor Day celebrates a 150-year-long legacy that is now observed throughout the nation and around the world. And whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our topsoil, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other products. And whereas trees in the city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of the businesses, and beautify our community. Therefore, on behalf of the citizens of the city at Battle Creek, we do hereby proclaim April 29th, 2022 as Arbor Day in the Battle Creek area. And we encourage all residents to recognize, plant, and care for trees at their homes and places of work. Once again, we want to thank everyone in the Department of Public Works that works so hard just to make people better aware of some of the things we're doing. Todd, I want to present this and then ask your boss to take a picture. Thank you, Carl. Next item on our agenda will be Chair noting any added or deleted resolutions.
2 public hearings were added.
Okay, thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is petition communications and reports.
We did receive 3 emails from people related to the public hearing tonight, which were all passed along to the commissioners.
Thank you very much. And Rebecca, is there a staff report from Department of Public Works?
Yes, there is. I'm sorry, the script has the incorrect presentation. The correct presentation is from Public Works. And so, Mayor and Commissioners, I would like to, he needs no introduction, but I will invite Carl Fetters, the DPW Director, to the mic, and he's going to talk about things happening in Public Works.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good evening, Commissioners. I am Carl Fetters. I'm the DPW Director, and with me tonight I have my entire management team, and they've been asked to be on their best behavior, but I'd like to introduce them. You no doubtly have communicated with them at some point, but I'll go through the list. Behind me is Greg Rickmar. He's the Traffic Engineering Manager. He's in charge of our traffic operations along with Signs and Signals Group. He works closely with Jarrett Gearing. He's the newest member of our management team. He is the city engineer and responsible for project delivery. Next to him is Rodney Clifton. Rodney Clifton is our wastewater superintendent in charge of wastewater treatment plant operations and maintenance of our lift stations, 130 some odd lift stations out in the system. Patty Hoke-Meliwish is someone you've already been introduced to. She's our environmental and storm services manager. It's a mouthful. But her whole role is largely dealing with the solid waste contract, with our drainage permits, and she has done a very good job of being a grant writer for us. Next to her is Todd Gerber. He is one of the 2 Todds that we affectionately call the Todds. They are both in field services, and they handle anything that you basically see, so roads, trees, parks. Behind him is Perry Hart. Perry Hart is our operator in charge of the water system, and also it provides administrative oversight for our wastewater treatment plant and those operations. Next to him is Kurt Tribbett. Kurt Tribbett is our engineering administrator. We've kind of run out of names for our titles, but he is his largest role is coordinating all of our asset management plans so that we get the biggest bang for our buck. And Todd Everson, you've already met, the Assistant Field Services Superintendent. And finally, last but not least, is Steve Seaman. He is our fleet manager in charge of all of DPW equipment, along with fire apparatus, police equipment, other departments, along with some outside jurisdictions. Ooh, okay. So, we've all at some point taken the Myers-Briggs personality assessment, and overwhelmingly in Public Works on the management team, we are introverts. I am the black sheep, I guess, of the extrovert, and so that comes with some challenges because obviously we have to communicate with our public, and the Department of Public Works has probably the most amount of touch points with the public than any other department. So with that in mind, we understand our weakness, and so we've engaged Jessica, and she has our communications manager, and she has herded us like cat to kind of help us engage and communicate a little bit better than we are capable of. So a little bit outside our comfort zone. In front of you, I have given each one of you our 4th edition of BC Works. So BC Works is a Department of Public Works newsletter. This was probably hit your mailboxes in late March. And this originally was a communication that was really spearheaded by Patty to get information out to the public surrounding the solid waste contract switch. We saw such huge benefits from having an actual publication mailed to people that we continue to do it. The proof that we know people are reading it is that we have we've had for years, fluorescent bulb recycle boxes and battery recycle boxes in our office at DPW. And if you come into the DPW, you can get a box, you put your bulbs and your batteries in it, and you send it off. It's free. And we advertised it in one of the first few editions, and we had people coming through the door. And we gained so much space in our storage room, and it was great. So we said, well, this is working. So I just kind of want to walk through this publication. It has a lot of good information into it. It touches just about all of our divisions. And on the cover, we're highlighting Claude Evans. And so this summer will be this spring and summer and fall will be the first summer that we'll have our wet safari splash pad in operation for the entire summer. Last year it went into operation. It was a little bit chilly. People still used it, but we're excited to have that feature in the park. And we're also excited to have a couple more community conversations about what can happen in that park. And so we're really thankful for the community group that spearheaded that. We've taken over ownership and maintenance on it, and we're excited to see where that park goes. On page 2, you'll see a little blurb about our 21st year as a Tree City USA. We're excited about that and where we're going with some of the things that you're going to see on the agenda tonight. We also have a lot of good solid waste reminders on what we'll collect, when we'll collect it, what to put it in. All those questions, those frequently asked questions we get on solid waste are all answered right here, along with who to call and where to get more information. We also have dates on this that say, when does yard pickup start and end? When are the spring and fall cleanups? They're all in this document. And then we have a little fun. Our resident puzzle maker, Sarah McGinnis, made a crossword puzzle with a parks theme with all the parks that we have in the city of Battle Creek. On the third page, you'll see information on all of our special collections. So we do styrofoam, tire collection, and electronics. So where these happen, when these happen, what we'll collect, all information that you'll see here. And then again, at the bottom, there's Earth Day events, Canoe the Kazoo, and Crazy for the Kazoo, which is a cleanup event. On the 4th and 5th pages, you'll see information about our utility system. And I won't go into the details here, but some people will find this interesting, and maybe not all. The thing that we want to stress here is if it's not human waste, toilet paper, or water, it should not go down the toilet. Since COVID started, and even before COVID, but really since COVID started, we've been having a huge problem with flushable wipes clogging up pumps in our lift stations. So we have 130 lift stations. We have 8 individuals that service those lift stations. They flat do not have time to declog all these pumps and keep up with the preventative maintenance. And so we've stressed, we target, any chance that we get, we try to get the word out that flushable wipes are not flushable. If it's not toilet paper, it doesn't go down the toilet. We had a suggestion, and I haven't floated it by Rebecca yet, but we have the ability to collect this material.
Nope.
And there's a parade coming up, and perhaps there's some communities that we can maybe run this through town and kind of get some people's attention. But it is a huge problem, and it's going to end up costing some money. On the right side of that is information on lead services, information about our testing, our process, what we've replaced with, and I'd encourage people that are interested in that to read that. On the 6th page, most people are shocked to find out that the city of Battle Creek does not own or operate the streetlights. Those are owned and operated by Consumers Energy. We pay the bill, but they are owned and operated by Consumers Energy. And in the past, we have really struggled to get good response to streetlights that are out. And Consumers Energy, to their credit, have responded. They now have a web-based reporting system that is super easy to use, and there's a QR code here that you can scan. If you allow it to know where your location is, you can use your GPS and click lights. It will show the lights that other people have reported. And so it's a lot better system than we used to have, and hopefully people are using it. And many hands make light work, and so if we kind of deputize everyone, if you see a street light that is out, use this and let's get it replaced. And they have been really responsive to street lights that have been reported. On the 7th page, you'll see our construction season 2022 schedule. I will say that this is our plan. Since it's been printed, we are experiencing impacts of labor shortages and supply chain, and so this is probably going to change. And it still needs, a lot of these projects need to be bid out, recommended from our division, and then approved by you guys before they actually become on the streets. And then there's a picture of Jarrett, because he's our new guy there. And then on the last page here is just an open invitation. We have a wide range of needs in terms of labor. So from a laborer all the way up to scientists, we offer career opportunities. People obviously have worked at the City of Battle Creek and made a good living, and we intend to continue to do that. And so we ask that if you have skills of any kind, we typically will need them. So please reach out to us. There's information there. And with that, I can answer any questions that you may have or for my staff.
Are there any questions for our Department of Public Works? You did such a great job. There are no questions, Carl. Thank you.
Mayor.
Yes, we do have one question. Commissioner Blood.
Not a question, more of singing the praises of DPW and the team. So, awesome team. Glad to see you guys all here. Some I've actually talked with via meetings or other such things. Carl, always good job. I loved getting this in the mail. I was so tickled that I sat down and read it all. I'm sorry I didn't do the puzzle, but I will do it later. I feel like all of this information is the type of information you find on a fridge that you need to know. I love the dates and the communication and the color and the engagement. I actually did love this entire thing, and I read through it and then found all the numbers because I'm a scientist nerd and those are the kind of things I like. And then the light outages, I want to encourage people to utilize this. I have, so easy, and the lights outside of my house are now shining. And construction season, I think, is actually summer season here in Michigan. And so I appreciated to know where to avoid. So thank you for this. It was really well put together, and I appreciate it. And I hope the community does as well, and it's on their fridge.
Yeah, well, a lot of that credit goes to Patty because she is the one that kind of organizes us to get this out. And
That's why her
gives us
title's so
deadlines.
long.
Once again, thank you, Carl. Next item on our agenda is a public hearing to receive Battle Creek Transit proposed fare increase to be effective July 1st, 2022. Madam Clerk, is there anything you're going to read on this?
Just that this public hearing is to receive public input on Battle Creek Transit's proposed fare increase to be effective July 1, 2022.
Okay, I'll declare the public hearing open, but I'm going to make some comments first. If you'd like to make a public comment on the subject of this public hearing, then please raise your hand and wait for us to acknowledge you, and then come forward to the podium where you will have 3 minutes to make your comment. Please state your name and address before making your comment so that in the event that we need to get back to you, we'll be able to do that. But before we go to a public hearing, we're going to ask our director, Mallory Avis, to make a small presentation. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you. In 2020, just days before COVID, I was before the Commission in the final steps of approval for a fare increase. I was seeking the increase for multiple reasons. One, our budget deficit required us to actively pursue any possible additional source of revenue. And although small, this fare increase was expected to generate roughly $140,000 in additional revenue. The second reason is because it had been 17 years since the fares were last considered for an increase. 2 years later, I'm before you again, and now it has been 19 years since the last general fare increase, and 28 years since the last increase to multi-ride passes. The history of these fare increases is listed, and as you can see, the last fare increase was in 2003, when fares were raised from $1 to $1.25, and reduced fare was increased from 50 cents to 60 cents. The last increase to teletransit and ADA reduced fares was in 2002, when fares were increased from $1 to $2, and the last increase to multi-ride passes was in 1994. Comparing our current fares to other transit agencies, BCT has one of the lowest fares in all categories, fixed route, reduced fare, and ADA. You'll note that the difference between us and each of these other systems is that they're supported by a dedicated funding source, transit millage. Next slide, please. While a 40% increase may seem like a lot, when compared to the rate at which expenses have climbed over the last 19 years, we're able to understand why it's necessary. So for example, since 2003, fixed route costs per passenger have increased 63%, and teletransit costs per passenger have increased 81%. Next slide, please. This chart shows a comparison of our current fare structure on the left to our proposed fare structure that's on the right. There's no proposed change to transfers or child fares, and multi-ride passes would increase at the same rate as the single fare. This fare increase for a full fare passenger who uses the service twice a day, 5 days a week, relates to $5 per week. A reduced fare passenger with the same travel pattern would feel a $2.50 increase per week. Qualified human service organizations can still purchase passes at a reduced rate. However, this proposal includes raising that rate consistent with the other rates. Next slide. The proposal does not impact the general fare for teletransit, but it does propose an increase in the ADA. I'm sorry, next slide. No, I'm sorry, you're right. That's the right side. It does increase the ADA and reduced fare from $2 to $3. This does keep the ADA and reduced fare within the federal standards of charging not more than twice the fare for standard fixed route service. For the sake of budgeting, we're going to continue to use 2019 ridership data rather than 2020 or 2021. And this is due to the impact that COVID has had on ridership and our reporting for the last 2 years. Based on 2019 data for passenger trips and the total fares collected, we're able to determine that our average fare for fixed route is less than 75 cents. This means that the majority of our riders qualify for reduced fare or are purchasing multi-ride passes which offer a built-in discount. Applying the same percentage of increase to 2019 ridership data tells us that our average fare per trip on fixed route would increase to roughly $1 under this proposal. Combined with the increase in paratransit fares, the total additional fare box revenue is estimated at just under $140,000. This number also takes into account fare elasticity, or the decrease in ridership due to the increase in fare. This budget fare elasticity is a loss of 0.34% of ridership for every 1% in fare increase. It's important to note that this fare increase is needed to generate revenue to fill a gap that currently exists. It is not to implement new services or new routes. This fare increase is necessary to maintain our existing levels of service. Next slide. FTA requires agencies operating 50 or more vehicles or urbanized areas with a population of 100,000 or more to complete what's called a fare equity analysis. Although we're not required to complete a fare equity analysis, we did one anyway. The equity analysis considers two things. First is the possible adverse effects of both implementing and not implementing a fare increase. And the second is ensuring that one or more specific populations do not suffer a greater burden or negative impact than another. BCT considered 3 budget scenarios: a fare increase, a service reduction, and a service elimination as part of our equity analysis. Based on the data collected through the Transit Master Plan, it was determined that 40% of our neighbors do not own a vehicle. Thus, reducing or eliminating service would have a greater adverse impact than increasing the fare. When comparing the cost of using transportation at the proposed rate to the Bureau of Transportation Statistics' average cost of owning a car, we found that transit would consume approximately 3.6% of a rider's household income compared to 9.2% the cost of owning a car. Lastly, reducing or eliminating routes without other transportation alternatives in Battle Creek would place a greater hardship on riders than a proposed fare increase. Because BCT's proposal is considered for all routes, all hours, and all modes, it does not adversely impact one demographic greater than another. Reduced fare increases are equal to the increase proposed for the general fare and still remains less than the FTA guidelines by 50 cents. Since our Public Transportation Committee meeting in March, we have focused on public outreach and communication. We've published multiple public notices, including notices in Spanish and Burmese. We've issued press releases, conducted interviews with news stations, and engaged our followers on social media. We've also held this public hearing. We understand that communicating with the public and our ridership is important, and our responses to date have actually been overwhelmingly positive. We maintained some of the public comments that we received when the fare increase was proposed in 2020. And so when we consider those along with some of the comments and questions that we've received in 2022, I can answer a few of these for you. Some of the recurring questions seem to be around why not phase the increase in over time? And the answer is because we've established that the cost associated with implementing a fare increase outweighs the benefit of phasing in or doing multiple increases over time. The costs are associated with reprinting materials, passes, and reprogramming fare boxes on our vehicles. Why isn't the teletransit general fare increasing? Our teletransit general fares are currently $5 to $7 and account for roughly 5% of the fares collected for teletransit. And why aren't low-income riders eligible for reduced fare? Currently, reduced fare only applies to seniors and individuals with disabilities. However, we have many community partners and organizations and qualified human service organizations that purchase vet passes at a discounted rate that they can provide to their customers. We are always open to exploring what collaboration or partnerships look like with our community partners who are looking to do that. And then lastly, what additional service or amenities are going to result from this increase? And as I mentioned previously, it's important to understand that this fare increase is simply a part of maintaining our existing level of service. That is the end of my presentation. If you have any questions for me.
Are there any questions for Mallory?
Mallory, can I just ask that you speak about that gap a little bit more intensively, just so everyone can really understand how much of your income comes from ridership versus city support versus state versus federal, because it's a very different number. If you can just touch base on that.
Absolutely. So less than 10% of our revenues are passenger fares. The majority of our funding comes from state and federal grants, and the city general fund contributes roughly $1 million to our budget. The last 2 years, we've been able to receive CARES and ARPA funding that have allowed us to delay this process a little bit longer. However, as we look at the 2023 budget, we no longer have access to CARES or ARPA funding.
Would it be safe to say that using ridership alone, based on what you just said, would not support a system in our city?
Absolutely not. And the rate that you would have to charge per passenger would no longer make it affordable.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Mallory. Are there any other questions of Mallory Avis at this time? Thank you very much. We'll now open the floor. Once again, I would like to remind you, please raise your hand and wait for us to acknowledge you, and then come forward to the podium where you'll have 3 minutes to make your comment. Please state your name and address before making your comment. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Mary Fortney. I live at 170 Valley View Road, 49015. But I'm really here on behalf of or representing Disability Network Southwest Michigan in support of Battle Creek Transit. So you'll all be receiving letters from our CEO that is going to highlight some of what I'm going to discuss today. Again, my name's Mary Fortney. I'm an employee of Disability Network Southwest Michigan. We are one in a network of hundreds of centers for independent living throughout the country, and our specific Center for Independent Living serves an 8-county region for persons with disabilities here, including Calhoun County. So I've been with the agency a little over 8 years. A large part of my role is to remove barriers to employment for persons with disabilities. And so, as I'm sure you all can well imagine, transportation very often is a huge barrier for persons seeking employment and wanting to maintain successful employment. Battle Creek's an industrial town. In 2018, recognizing the vital role of public transportation to a vibrant community, City of Battle Creek's master plan included a short-term goal of coordinating with local employers to provide late-night transit routes to support second and third shift employees, particularly in the Fort. In 2019, this number astounds me. Transit supplied nearly 400,000 fixed route trips, including 10% of those for elderly and/or disabled persons here in Battle Creek. And knowing that many disabled persons don't self-identify, that number I would guess is actually higher. In addition, they provided 15,000 door-to-door services, 78% of which were for elderly and disabled persons. These trips provide links to employment, healthcare, food, so much more. And although Mallory shared that the fare increase isn't necessarily going to expand services, we would like the commissioners to at some point consider an expansion for the transportation. It would create greater inclusivity, and we are asking that at some point the commission allocate marketing funds to Battle Creek Transit to enhance community awareness and the use of public transit. We also encourage that the commission hopefully revisit that late night transit route that would remove that barrier to employment for persons. Personally, I'd like to challenge you all to ride Battle Creek Transit. Quick show of hands, who has ridden any of our buses? All right. Just as somebody who's been working closely with them for the last 8+ years, I'd like to just, share with you their dedication to the people here in the city that need transportation, everywhere from administration to the dispatchers and the drivers are just a phenomenal bunch. So I'd just like to thank you for your time.
Well, and thank you for your comments and your service to our community. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Steiner. I live at 115 South 26th Street in the city of Battle Creek. Mayor Binky, members of the City Commission, interested parties, of course, members of Battle Creek, on the issue of raising the fare for the buses, I am in direct opposition, and I'm going to take my 3 minutes to try to explain to you why. I've rode the bus. I've rode the bus with your citizens, and I bow to the will of the people because the citizens said that you were the 9 people that they wanted to represent them. I feel you're taking the easy way out. In times like this, and everybody know the times we're talking about, we don't try to find the easy way out. We try to find real solutions. I believe that you 9 people can find a solution to this. And in the interim, not raise the bus fare, but lower the bus fare. Hey, we can't bow just because it's the easy way out to transfer the burden on the will of the people. You know, they voted y'all in. They voted you in because they believed that you could solve problems, not just in the interim, but across the board. Now, those of you who ran into me before in the political arena know I don't come in here lightly. I can give you my opinions and I can give you my comments, and I'll mix it with a little bit of facts. You know, we got to come together a little bit harder. You know, we always looking for the easy way out. Transfer the burden to the people. The people can't always stand the burden. And we know that just because the numbers reflect that it might work out like that, we know it don't always work out like that, i.e. the pandemic. Anybody ever heard of a pandemic in their lifetime? I haven't. And we know it's going to be some perilous times. So I call on you, find another way. Raising the bus fare might backfire on us. And if it backfires on us, then where are we? We ain't got no cab system. If it wasn't for Bishop Tino and the CAA and other people, they get together to try to take the ill and the infirm to their medical appointments or to the store, we'd be lacking, y'all. And we leaking right now. I'm asking you, find another way. I got confidence in you. And the citizens of Battle Creek voted you in. So they got confidence in you. So don't lose that confidence because you're looking for the easy way out just to raise the bus fare. You'll see a lot of your fellow citizens walking. And in closing, how many of you have been by and asked your citizens what they feel about it? Have any of you done that? I'll let you go now. Peace.
Thank you, Jerry Steiner. I appreciate your comments a lot. Are there any other comments at this time? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Cheryl Crescent, 10 Clay Street. I support the raise because there's a lot of cost in there right now. You got your labor cost, you got your gas, your fuel cost. Right now, we don't know how much gas is going to go up or down each day. You know, there's a lot of factors, but there is some things that the city could do to help out. And there's one thing I kind of baffles me. A few years ago, we had a survey done. I think it was like $45,000 the city put out to fix the buses, change routes. Nothing became of that. That was wasted money. Very wasted money. Right now, we got a chance to right the wrongs. Very right the wrongs. Like on Saturdays, there's 5 buses out of 8 go down for lunch for 1 hour. Say if I want to go out to Walmart at, I got to take the 11:15, next bus don't come until 1:30. What I got to do out there for an hour and a half? I'm just going to be probably out there for an hour. Or if I take West Michigan, go out to see a friend of mine. Or go out to Myers or wherever. That is something we need to fix there a little bit, you know. Get a little bit more tightness on Saturday runs. And there's one other thing that we could always do. Thank our neighbors, you know, because we got a bus system in this town. It's not the best. It sure in heck ain't the worst. Because, you know, that's something that we got to think about. Are our neighbors, not us. And also, I invite the city bus system to come into our next meeting for the Homeless Coalition in May and talk to them, give them a presentation. Because our organizations are running on a very tight budget. I mean, not just one, I mean all of them. Even the city of Battle Creek's running on a tight budget. I know that. Because, you know, that's something that we got to think about, you know, as our fellow man, because that's what, I am that way. I help out when I can. And all I got to say is rock on, peace out.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments. Are there any other comments at this time? Reese?
Good evening, Maurice Atkins, 24 Popular, Battle Creek, Michigan. I was here 2 weeks ago when there was a citywide transit proposal put on here. And in this proposal, it was proposed that a 1% millage or whatever it would be asked. Instead of raising these prices and hurting these senior citizens, even as little as it is, it's still going to hurt a senior citizen because their money's not going up. Why can't these city commissioners look at, instead of raising the prices on the city buses, do a millage that will help to pay for these increases and pay for what needs to be done? Because you're already talking about it if we go a citywide. You know, you're already talking about doing a millage. Why can't you just do it now and not raise these prices and hurt these people that are riding these buses who don't have very much money? I know I used to ride the bus, and when I only get less than $800 a month, it's very difficult to set aside an increase or set aside any money for bus fares to ride a bus or even the handy van because you're not getting very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Reese. Are there any other public comments at this time? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Margaret Cibatine, and I live at 100 South Bedford Road, apartment 319, Battle Creek. I know that they used to have it where the bus would come in and pick up there at Bedford Manor. Now they don't even do that. And there's some of us, like me, got to walk clear up to Rite Aid or catching the bus going inbound at speeds. And I don't mind the walking, but it's just the idea, if it's raining, it was a lot easier. I could catch the bus right there as it pulls into, and it would pull into Bedford Manor. Now they don't even do that anymore. And that makes it, it does make it hard, especially if it's raining or snowing and stuff, bad weather. And they need to bring that back. Thank you for my say on this. And I love riding the buses, and I don't give up. Have a blessed
Thank you
day.
very much, Margaret, for being here tonight. Thank you. Are there any other public comments at this time? Yes, John Kennefick.
John Kennefick, 234 South Avenue. I'm going to attack this matter from a couple of different directions. Many years ago, when I was an independent producer out of Access Vision, I filmed what's called the Local Advisory Council. Now, money comes from different sources for public transit. One of those sources is Michigan Department of Transportation. They would send money to the city of Battle Creek, and a section of that money would go to nonprofits like Community Action, Cool Family Center, and Marion Birch. Now, these same people and these same organizations would have members on the local advisory committee. Now, they would recuse themselves, which they should, because it was a conflict of interest. By doing so, though, they lost a quorum at that time in that meeting. They couldn't vote for the applications that were submitted to them because there wasn't enough members. But yet it went in front of the city commission saying that they did meet and they were approved when that was not true, and that was explained to the city commission. You voted for it anyway. In response to this, a little while later, Jill Steele created a new situation called a local coordinating committee, which has very similar members of the nonprofits, and in this time, they can vote themselves money for the people they work for. It is interesting that they can do this without recusing themselves. It was said at that time that that it was approved by Michigan Department of Transportation for the local coordinating committee. I had spoken to the Michigan Department of Transportation, and they explained to me they did not approve the local coordinating committee. What they actually said is they weren't going to fight what the city municipality was going to create. They weren't approving or disproving. And so that created the LCC with people that are voting themselves money from the public treasury. These people not only blocked other people that were submitting applications or wanted to be helping the disabled and be competitive, because that would take money out of the pockets of the people that were submitting that from these nonprofits that already had higher applications. So that hasn't changed. I would suggest if you have any information that actually proves the Michigan Department of Transportation actually approved the local coordinating committee in writing, that would be nice. Finally, last but not least, apparently a number of you people went and have been on the bus before. You might notice that on the buses, it's what they have on the outside of the bus called advertising. Now, approximately every year, according to a Freedom of Information Act I submitted a while ago, you take in $40,000 a year. If you do that over a 25-year period, that's $1 million. So I don't ever see that mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Are there any other public comments at this time? Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Next item on our agenda is another public hearing. Madam Clerk, will you please read?
This public hearing is for the purpose of receiving public comments on the draft 2022-23 Annual Action Plan and proposed budget for the city's 2022-23 Community Development Block Grant and Home Programs as received from the U.S. Housing and Urban Development.
Declare the public hearing open. I'd like to read a small statement first. If you'd like to make a public comment on the subject of this public hearing, then please raise your hand and wait for us to acknowledge you, and then come forward to the podium where you'll have 3 minutes to make your public comment. Please state your name and address before making your public comment. Chris Lucier, is there anything you would like to say before? All right, thank you for your hard work, though. Is there any public comment at this period of time? This is on our action plan. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Next item on our agenda is another public hearing. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
This public hearing is to receive public input on a proposed amendment to the Battle Creek Tax Increment Finance Authority Development Plan to extend the duration of the development plan by 25 years to 2047 to allow for up to a 25-year amortization of any bonds utilized for projects.
Declare the public hearing open at this period of time. If you'd like to make a public comment on the subject of this public hearing, then please raise your hand and wait for us to acknowledge you. And then come forward to the podium where you will have 3 minutes to make your public comment. Please state your name and address for the record. Jerry Steiner? Yes.
I just got one comment. What exactly does that mean? All that stuff you just explained. What does it mean?
We're going to create new jobs, economic development, and provide more opportunities to people in Battle Creek. If that's what you're asking about the extension of the Battle Creek Tax Increment Finance Authority.
And this affects all citizens?
Well, if you're going to be here in 2047, it will.
Well, I hope I'll be here. And I hope all y'all be here. But in the interim, this is a bill that's supposed to benefit the people of Battle Creek, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry. Are there any public comments at this time? Are there any public comments? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Next item on our agenda is the adoption of ordinance. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
Battle Creek City Charter, Section 8.3, provides for establishing a board of review and the appointment of members. However, it does not provide for the appointment of alternate members. This year, in particular, the Board of Review had to change a required meeting date due to not being able to meet a quorum. Since the charter does not provide for the appointment of alternates, the assessor had no choice but to hold the meeting on a later date. This resolution seeks adoption of ordinance number 07-2022 to amend Chapter 262 of City Ordinances, Board of Review, by adding sections to provide for the appointment of alternate members to better ensure the ability to meet quorum for the required meetings to take place.
Commissioner Zenda Wilson moves for the approval of ordinance 07-2022.
Commissioner Sophia supports.
It's been moved and supported to adopt ordinance 356, ordinance number 07-2022. Are there any public comments at this period of time? Seeing none, are there any commission comments or questions or clarifications? Seeing none, would you please vote on the adoption of ordinance 07-2022?
Commissioner Herring?
Yes.
Thank you.
The adoption of ordinance 07-2022 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is the public comment regarding consent agenda and resolutions not on the consent agenda. Once again, please allow me to read this statement. If you'd like to make a public comment during or regarding the consent agenda and resolutions not on the consent agenda, please raise your hand and we will acknowledge you to come forward to the podium. You will have 3 minutes to make your comments. Please state your name and address before making your comment. Once again, that's just so that we can easily get in touch with you if there are any answers to the questions that you pose. Is there anyone at this time that would like to make a public comment regarding consent agenda and resolutions not, yes, ma'am, on the consent agenda?
Good evening. My name is Cindy Dion. I live at 24 Poplar, Battle Creek, Michigan, and I would like to speak in opposition to Resolution 365. I really am stunned by the number of provisioning offices that we already have in this community. I'm not denying the medical benefits of marijuana. However, I do think enough is enough, and we should stop allowing these businesses to continue to come up basically on almost every block in the city of Battle Creek. I think we're better than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. DeYoung. We appreciate your comments. Are there any other comments, public comments at this time? Yes, Jerry Steiner.
Yeah, I'm full of them tonight.
That's all right.
I'm full of them. Look here, y'all. I'm from the generation where you could get 20 years for a joint. Some of y'all remember John Sinclair. I'm sure you do. But my point is this. When it came to money, all the opposition disappeared. Everybody wanted to get in on the marijuana business. Hey, my grandmama say, tell the truth and shame the devil. There's a lot of people that we all know here that are benefiting from the marijuana craze. I'd rather have a legally sanctioned person smoke some weed and drink a fifth of alcohol. Marijuana has never killed anyone. But we seem to have a problem with getting a handle on this fentanyl. I'm trying to tell you, sometimes we look past the obvious because it suits our own purpose. Now, a lot of people will tell you in here that they don't smoke no weed because they're in the general public and they know it's wrong. But I'm telling you, because I've been down that road and I don't live in no glass house, I would rather have legalized marijuana than kids going to jail for selling a joint. And I've seen it. A lot of careers were destroyed because the police pulled them over and they had a roach or a half a joint in their pocket and didn't eat it. So when you think about it, let's think about the benefits. You know, sure, we got a lot of prejudices on everything. Gay rights, the transgender, you know, the black-white thing, you know. Hey, look here, y'all. The issue on marijuana, to me, is moot because it's brought revenue to Battle Creek, quite a bit of revenue. We the second in line to having the most dispensaries? The lady right here, she's correct. But vote on it and see what the final tally be. Marijuana. Peace.
Thank you very much, Jerry Steiner. We appreciate your comments and you being here tonight. Reese Atkins, please.
Reese Adkins, 24 Popular. I am going on Resolution 361. A resolution seeking authorize for the city manager into an agreement to sell 3 parcels on Van Buren Street. Mixed developments. What guaranteed are we that these developments are even going to be done? You know, I see time after time people coming to the city commission, getting developments, getting tax exemptions. Let's look at the old junior high school over on Washington Street. It still sits empty with fires being set in it. I remember not too long ago when an organization came and said, let me buy that. Let me get a tax exemption for that. We're going to put one-bedroom apartments in there. It still sits empty. Nothing been done with it. So if we're going to agree to sell these parcels for mixed developments, how do we know these developments are even going to be done? Is it going to be another situation where the city's going to go in and sell them and then they're going to come and say, give me a tax exemption, they still sit empty? I mean, because I see an awful lot of it going on. So I really think the commissioners need to really look at selling these parcels and say, what guarantee do we have that there's going to be development put there? Because I see an awful lot of possibly being put, but nothing happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Reese. I'll have the city manager's office get back to you with an answer on that. All right, are there any other public comments at this time? Yes, John Kennefick.
guess you don't know me. My name is John Kinnifick. I live at 234 South Avenue. I'm going to speak in regards to Resolution 361. It's 3 parcels together. They're going to be sold supposedly to a development corporation or company. The location is on McCanley and West Van Buren, across from the Central High School. My concern actually happened a number of whiles ago. I have no problem with low-income housing, but usually in regards to the past, over by Van Buren Street and Lemmet Street, there was an organization that was called Upholdings LLC. It turns out that approximately $23 million to create these 51 units was going to be paid by the federal government. And there was going to be a voucher, and the voucher said that if you were going to live there, all you'd have to come up with as a renter or a person that was homeless was $60 a month. That's the 6%. The remaining budget would come from the federal government or taxes to subsidize the $940 per unit per month. Well, that's about $50,000 a year coming in for the Upholdings LLC, and that would be tax dollars also. My concern here is that there's not really that much real estate in these 3 lots, and that if you're going to have a really serious development, I have a feeling you're going to have to go vertical instead of horizontal. You might be housing units there, but it might be very limited by setbacks. And I also wonder who the taxpayers are going to be paying for this, or if it's coming from the private sector. Like I said, I have no problem with low-income housing. In fact, I'm kind of disgusted with the City Commission of Battle Creek in the past, because you did have affordable housing in the city of Battle Creek. You spent your time terrorizing, intimidating, and getting people to leave, and then you could bulldoze those buildings because they didn't live up to your standards, the minimum standards that you claim. Of course, the government of Battle Creek, after approximately just less than 5 years, without filing a dangerous building or an order to repair, is finally getting to your building without doing anything in regards to that. You expect people to live up to a certain standard, or the citizens of Battle Creek to live up to a certain standard, and then you fall down on your face by ignoring the same standards you expect from everyone else. I believe the word hypocrisy should be used here. I would have liked to see the city government go through the same procedures which you've inflicted on your citizens and taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other public comments at this time? Jerry, you've already been up once. You can't be up twice. No. Jerry, I tell you what, if I let you...
Look here, Mark.
Excuse me.
Me and you talked about this.
I'm going to have to...
Me and you talked about this housing thing.
No, listen.
We talked about it.
If I allow you to speak, I'm going to let John Kennefick and everyone else that's already spoken. I cannot do it, Jerry. I'm sorry. Well, Jerry, please sit down. Please. All right, you're out of order. You're out of order. All right, Jerry, you're out of order. Please sit down. Okay, are there any other public comments at this time? Margaret, you've already spoken, haven't you, or not in the?
No.
Okay,
Nope.
please come forward then.
Margaret Sabatine, I live at 100 South Bedford Road. In a lot of ways, not only the one school that was just mentioned, but also Southwestern Junior High. Nobody's done anything with that. What would be nice for the, taking both of them, both of the schools, and making low-income apartments, 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom.
Margaret, I'm going to have to interrupt you and ask, what resolution are you speaking to?
The 361,
Okay, thank you.
and I'd like to see more housing, for the homeless and stuff. And I think it would be great if they could make them into, one-bedroom apartments or even two-bedroom apartments. And that for the school, with these old schools. Yeah, that's all I got to say.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Appreciate it. Are there any other public comments at this time? Seeing none, I'm going to declare the public comment section of our meeting closed, and we're going to go to commission comments regarding meeting business.
Commissioner Zenda Wilson moves for the approval of the consent agenda.
Commissioner Sophia supports.
Been moved and supported to approve the consent agenda. Is there any questions by the commission or comments? Seeing none, would you please vote on the consent agenda?
Commissioner Blood?
Yes.
Thank you.
Consent agenda has been approved. Next item on our agenda is resolution portion of the agenda. We'll first start with Resolution 358.
Jan White began working at the age of 15 as a lifeguard at Willard Beach. He graduated from Battle Creek Central High School in 1963 and attended Kellogg Community College. He entered the U.S. Army in 1966 and proudly served 24 years, retiring in 1990. He then began working at TRMI for the next 16 years, and following that was a park ranger at Willard Beach for 13 years. This resolution seeks authorization for the naming of the large pavilion at Willard Beach in memory of Jan White, Sr.
Commissioner Zenda Wilson moves to support Resolution 358.
Commissioner Sophia supports.
It's been moved and supported to approve Resolution 358. Are there any comments by the commission or questions? Seeing none, would you please vote on Resolution 358?
I don't know.
Commissioner Blood?
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution 358 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 359. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
The Battle Creek Police Department has used what is commonly referred to as tasers for over a decade as a non-lethal alternative to the use of deadly force where other tools are insufficient. Axon brand tasers is the most widely used of such devices among law enforcement agencies around the country. The contract under consideration tonight includes not only the devices, but training equipment and tools, including virtual reality, to ensure proper use and functioning of the devices. This resolution seeks to authorize a contract for tasers and a virtual reality training program for the City of Battle Creek Police Department from Axon Enterprise Incorporated in an estimated 5-year amount of $338,380 with unit prices prevailing.
Commissioner Zenda Wilson moves for the approval of Resolution 359.
Commissioner Sophia supports.
It's been moved and supported to approve Resolution 359. Are there any comments or questions by the commission at this period of time? Commissioner Blood.
Yes, thank you, sir. Is it okay if Chief comes up to answer a few questions?
Absolutely.
Thanks. Hi, Chief. So in the supporting, in your memo that you sent out in the document, it talked about the department having 19 taser devices. How many police do we have, and does each officer have a device?
So tasers are normally assigned to patrol officers.
Okay.
And so right now, we have roughly 45 patrol officers working the road. However, we anticipate that that will increase as we, of course, fill our vacancies. This was a program that was started back in 2000. It certainly was a good program for the department, certainly in terms of limiting not just citizen injury, but also officer injury, and also is incorporated into the de-escalation process. So clearly these systems were excellent systems. The only thing I want to add to it is I heard the early roll-up, and I want to point out the virtual reality goggles that we're getting. I mean, talk about timely. Those goggles are going to provide for us the opportunity to simulate not just dealing with the mentally ill, not just dealing with folks with PTSD, not just dealing with aggravated subjects or folks that want to resist, but also a full spectrum of opportunities where officers can immerse themselves and then make appropriate decisions and take the right tactical approach, whether it's de-escalating and providing time and distance or otherwise approaching the situation entirely different. I think certainly in this current environment, that kind of training, it's not like we planned this, but we anticipated it. These were devices that we looked at about 5 years ago, and we've been watching them develop and get better and better and better as they've incorporated artificial intelligence, because they're intuitive with the officer's movements. And I can tell you the achievement of the company to bring these forward has been outstanding.
I'm very excited about that, and I love that recap. Let me ask my question a little bit clearer, because I think I asked it incorrectly, or maybe it didn't come across. So when I read your memo, it says you own 19 taser devices. Does that mean of officers that are out and armed, only 19 have tasers?
That's right.
Okay.
Or right now, they're hot swapping them between each other, and that's just the wrong way to do it.
Yes.
Again, this was something we had started about 4 years ago.
For them having tasers?
That's right.
Okay.
Well, no, that was in 2000, but with this newest current generation.
Okay.
But we could just never get to that point where we could buy one for everyone. Well, I think we're at that point where we need to. And then we have the training, that virtual reality training that goes along with it.
Okay.
But again, this is just not for taser use. It's for all forms of escalation.
Yes, I was able to participate in putting the headpiece on and going through a simulation, and I think it's fantastic. I'm just hoping this leads to where all officers have availability to tasers and not just sidearms.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I'm kind of reading here, is that we're not there yet, but do we anticipate us getting there with this program so all officers will have tasers, and that will be something on our desks, relatively soon?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Any other
Commissioner.
questions?
Thank you, Chief. Commissioner Wilson.
Thank you. I want to thank the group that came in and did the workshop that helped us understand better the virtual reality training as well as the tasers, and want to encourage again that they consider elements of the training that will be around race and implicit bias. They said they don't have them yet, but they were taking that under consideration. So I just want to strongly encourage that, especially given what we're seeing right now. I mean, this is something that's got to be critically important, not just through the lens of mental illness or PTSD or other things. We know that race plays a factor, and we need to address it head on.
I can't disagree, or I firmly agree with you, and I think they will. I think that's the trend that we're seeing. You bring up a great point, is those virtual reality goggles also give us the opportunity to provide you that same working environment, to create that same scenario, that same stress that these officers are going through. So at least you can be introduced to the demands that they are placed on officers every single day. And I think the more opportunity, like with anything, the more you do stuff, the more you practice, I think the more proficient and the better your response is. Training. COVID has really limited a lot of it, but we're coming out of COVID, and we've got a full training calendar currently, and this is going to be a wonderful addition to it.
Well, and I think it would be helpful if I could just follow up with another comment, that the virtual reality also, if I remember it correctly, puts the officer in the position of the person that they are there to serve, which I think is building empathy for what it must feel like to be in that experience, which I think is probably something that we've not been able to do in the past. So I really appreciate that evolution of where we've come in our training.
Excellent. That's why we showed them to you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions? Thank you very much. I sense we're prepared to vote now. All right, please vote on Resolution 359.
Commissioner Blood?
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution 359 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 360.
The police Police and Fire Retiree Health Care Insurance Board, 401H Board, was created by City Commission approval of Resolution 103, May 1st, 2007. The board assumed certain duties from the Police Fire Retirement System Board regarding retiree health care. Specifically, the 401H Board was to establish a system for allocating and distributing 401H funds that may be available among police and fire retirees for their health care benefit. Since the fiscal year ending June 30, 2019, all participating retirees have had their health insurance coverage fully paid with excess funds remaining each year. Because of the satisfactory fund balance and the continually decreasing number of eligible retirees, there is no longer a need for the separate 401H board to maintain a system to allocate resources among retirees. The amount set aside for retiree health care has been maintained as an account within the fund managed by the Police Fire Retirement System Board. Dissolving the 401H board will eliminate any unnecessary board. This resolution seeks to dissolve the Police and Fire Retiree Health Care Insurance Board previously established under Resolution 103, May 1st, 2007, and assigning to the Retirement Board for Police Fire of the City of Battle Creek the duties of allocating and distributing 401H funds that may be available among police and fire retirees for their health care benefit pursuant to Section 401H of the Internal Revenue Code.
Commissioner Zenda Wilson moves for the approval of Resolution 360.
Commissioner Sophia supports.
It's been moved and supported to approve Resolution 360. Are there any comments or questions by the Commission? Seeing none, would you please vote on Resolution 360?
Commissioner Blood?
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution 360 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 361.
The property that is the subject of this option agreement was used for many years as parking, primarily for Battle Creek Public Schools, as well as selling parking permits. In 2015, the school district worked with the city to improve the parking behind the school closer to the athletic fields, and since that time has used those lots rather than the parcels at issue here. This is a prime area for potential mixed-use development, and the city believes it is worthwhile to offer GLC the opportunity to explore the site's feasibility toward that proposed use, particularly after the MEDC and the RFQ process. If GLC exercises the option to purchase the 3 parcels from the city, then the property would be improved and returned to the city's tax assessment roll. This resolution is seeking authorization for the city manager to enter into an option agreement for the sale of 3 contiguous vacant parcels of land on West Van Buren Street, referred to as parcel numbers 52-0253-00-012-0, 52-0253-00-011-0, and 52-0253-00-020-0 for the potential of a mixed-use development.
Commissioner Zenda Wilson moves for the approval of Resolution 361.
Commissioner Sophia supports.
Been moved and supported to approve Resolution 361. Are there any comments or questions or clarifications by the Commission? Seeing none, please vote on Resolution 361. Resolution 361 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 362. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
In late 2021, Semco Energy Incorporated identified that a portion of its existing 8-inch gas pipeline was located on city-owned property. The parcel had previously been owned by the U.S. Army, which had provided an easement for the pipeline to Semco Energy Incorporated. That easement expired. Semco Energy Incorporated contacted the city to obtain an easement to govern the installation, operation, and maintenance of the gas pipeline. This resolution is seeking authorization for the city manager to grant Semco Energy Incorporated a right-of-way over city-owned property identified as parcel number 52-0058-00-040-0 for the installation, operation, and maintenance of an 8-inch natural gas pipeline adjacent to Skyline Drive.
Commissioner Zenda Wilson moves for the approval of Resolution 362.
Commissioner Sophia supports.
Been moved and supported to approve Resolution 362. Are there any comments or questions or clarifications from the commission? Seeing none, would you please vote on Resolution 362? Resolution 362 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 363.
The solicitation was issued January 25th, 2022, to contract with a forester to manage City of Battle Creek-owned forested properties in order to create a healthy and diverse forested areas, and advise the city on best practices and methods to promote future growth of desirable trees. This resolution is seeking approval to accept the proposal of best value for forest management from Natural Capital Forestry for 15% of gross revenue for harvested trees for a contract term of up to 5 years.
Commissioner Zenda Wilson moves for the approval of Resolution 363.
Commissioner Sophia supports.
It's been moved and supported to approve Resolution 363. Are there any comments, questions, or clarifications from the commission on this time? Seeing none, would you please vote on Resolution 363? Resolution 363 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 364.
A solicitation was issued March 21, 2022, for the purpose of contracting for a notification system suitable for law enforcement using data and technology to engage with the public to improve transparency and communication. This resolution is seeking approval for the proposal of best value for a law enforcement community notification system from Spider Tech Incorporated in a 5-year, not to exceed amount of $121,500.
Commissioner Zenda Wilson moves for the approval of Resolution 364.
Commissioner Sophia supports.
So moved and supported to approve Resolution 364. Are there any comments or questions? Commissioner Blood, go ahead.
Thank you. Chief, can I ask you a few more questions? Thanks. So Chief, I know you and I have spoken about this technology when you were going on a trip recently. Can you give a quick synopsis for those who maybe haven't read the supporting documentation about how this technology can help the community better interface with the police department and what's happening around that communication?
So I know early on, embracing technology to work through our challenges in terms of personnel has always been something that we've been looking at. But at the same time, we know technology can't replace relationships. So this isn't to replace relationships. It's simply to use existing technology that is out there. The best way I can describe this notification system, it's Amazon-like. If you order something on Amazon, you get a ping on your phone. It tells you what it is, when it will get there. It also will tell you how many stops away it is, and so on and so forth. Very similar, this program will do that for you. You put in a call to 911, it'll say, hey, Officer Blocker's en route. Well, let's say I get diverted, and I have to now take an accident. It'll then come back to you and say, hey, he's been delayed, but he'll be there shortly, and or someone else is en route. It's all driven through CAD, which is the dispatch system that's driving us. And so that's what triggers it. And then as the case moves throughout the department, let's say it is a crime, and it's now assigned to, I don't know, Detective Snuffatelli, when he gets the case. And it will then tell you, hey, the Officer Blocker no longer has that case, now the detective does. This is how you contact them, and it shares that information. It'll also share victim notification information, victims' rights notification, and again, we're not going to use it for all crimes, certainly not the serious ones. It has a DV notification. For example, if you've been in a domestic violence incident, it will let you know you are being warned. Domestic violence is against the law if we choose to use this system, right? And it will let them know. In Chula Vista, California, they realized once they started that program, because suddenly someone on the cloud told them via their phone, hey, what you just did was wrong. 24% of domestic violence incidents decreased, 88% of the folks, the victims involved, said the situation improved. We often understand, even in those scenarios, how powerless the victim can be. And that was just simply using tech. And then finally, I think one of the most powerful parts of this is it allows for a survey. Back and forth, how did we do? That is the challenge that I have. And oftentimes we'll do community surveys, but I really have no idea if you've actually utilized BCPD or it's a commentary on your opinion in general. Whereas this will give us that real-time opportunity to get that feedback and develop a better understanding of how we're doing and even how officers are doing. I hope that answers your question.
That's a great synopsis and kind of lays that out in the dream for the program. And I hadn't known about the survey piece at the end that would allow PD to utilize those to improve services, improve relationships. I think it's fantastic, so I would love to see how it goes, and I'd love to hear, once it's implemented, some quarterly and then yearly feedback on what you're finding and how that can be used to strengthen, again, those relationships, not replace them, but strengthen them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Blood. Any other comments up at the Commission? Commissioner Wilson.
Just want to reiterate something that Commissioner Blood said around the use of that survey data. I think it'd be critically important for us as your partners to also hear that, whatever sitting commission it is, just so that we know firsthand what people's experiences are with our PD, because we get a lot of anecdotal information, but to actually have hard data will be really, I think, a step in the right direction.
I agree, and we'll have that. That's what's also great, is it gives you a dashboard platform. You can determine how long did it take someone to get there, how long did it take the case to get routed through the agency and the system, and ultimately, what are the summary of the comments? Again, it's a great tool, and I would appreciate or recommend your approval.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
I'm not seeing any. Thank you, Chief. I sense we're prepared to vote on Resolution 364. Please vote on 364. Resolution 364 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 365. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
The petitioner, Thanos LLC, requested a special use permit for a medical marijuana provisioning center facility in the T3 Neighborhood Commercial District for the property located at 492 Capitol Avenue Southwest. This resolution seeks approval for a special use permit to allow for a medical marijuana provisioning center facility located at 492 Capitol Avenue Southwest. The property is zoned T3 Neighborhood Commercial District pursuant to Chapter 1240, Section 1240.13, and Chapter 1251, Sections 1251.23 and 29.
Commissioner Zenda Wilson moves for the approval of Resolution 365.
Commissioner Sophia supports.
So moved and supported to approve Resolution 365. Are any questions, comments, or clarifications by the Commission? Seeing none, would you please vote on Resolution 365? Resolution 365 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is Resolution 366. Madam Clerk, when you're ready.
An RFQ was issued on March 9, 2022 for the purpose of contracting for A&E professional services related to the replacement of the existing first floor and break room remodel of City Hall. The services will range from design development, specification and drawings development, pre-bid assistance to engage a general contractor to do the work, pre-construction planning and construction oversight. Contracts for architectural engineering services funded by the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 are required to adhere to the Brooks Act in the selection of the firm to be used. The Brooks Act is a federal law that requires that for federally funded projects, architectural engineering A&E firms be selected based solely upon their competency, qualifications, and experience without consideration to price. This resolution seeks approval of the qualifications-based proposal for architectural engineering for City Hall first floor and break room remodel from C2AE in a not-to-exceed amount of $102,000.
Commissioner Zenda Wilson moves for the approval of Resolution 366.
Commissioner Sophia supports.
Been moved and supported to approve Resolution 366. Are there any comments, questions, or clarifications by the commission? Seeing none, would you please vote on 366? Resolution 366 has been approved. Next item on our agenda is the general public comment. If you'd like to make a comment regarding general public comment regarding matters over which the City Commission has control, please raise your hand and wait for us to acknowledge you, and then come forward to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes to make your comment. Please state your name and address prior to beginning your comment. Are there any? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Is it okay if I pass this out?
We prefer you give it to the clerk, and then she'll pass them out.
My name is Mike Perkins, and I'm here with the Michigan Building Trades.
I got to ask you to stand in front of the microphone because we have YouTube, I believe, and we have Facebook. And those people will call and complain that they were not able to hear you talk.
Well, in my defense, I'm from Grand Rapids, so I don't really know how
It's a
things
suburb
work
of Battle
here.
Creek.
So, right, no, I'm learning, I'm learning. Is there a timer I can keep track of?
You have
or is-
3 minutes, and should be a timer right there in the left-hand corner that's running currently.
Beautiful, okay. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Nothing like first impressions.
Doing great.
So, I'm a representative of the Michigan Building Trades. We're the skilled labor organization that covers west and southwest Michigan. I cover an area roughly from Manistee down to Indiana, a little bit west of Lansing out to the lake. For members of the commission who've been on the commission for a while, you probably remember my predecessor. His name's Hugh Coward. I'm also an associate with Steve Claywell, who's a proud member of Battle Creek. I'm essentially here just to introduce myself. I cover this area. I represent the skilled trades workers who work here. I'm always advocating that we use best practices and best value when doing public construction. And I'm also, anytime I'm in a public forum like this, pushing for young people to enter the trades. I'm always talking to high schools, tech centers, and things like that because to no one's great surprise, we are aging out. I think the average age on a construction site right now is about 53. Which is not really a sustainable model. And it's crazy because we offer careers that really have the opportunity to put people in a solid middle class living. We train all of our people. We don't take any local, state, or federal money to do that. For example, in the plumbers and pipe fitters that I came from, the only organization that spends more on our training than we do is the U.S. military. We spend about $450 million a year to train our people. Over the course of a 5-year plumbing apprenticeship, you can expect that the United Association will spend about $150,000 on you specifically. You will come out of that apprenticeship with no debt, with a skill that can't be turned into software or sent overseas, and you'll have a realistic expectation of making in the 6 figures. It's really the fact that people don't know about us that is our problem. The thing that we tend to be the worst at is talking about ourselves. So I'm just here again to introduce myself. I hope to develop a relationship with all of you. I do cover a very large area. I apologize, it's taken me a while to get to this meeting, but I wanted to be in person before, so we could do that. I would happily take any questions if you have them later. Otherwise, you have my card and my information. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
We want to thank you very much for being here. We understand the necessary need that you bring, and we want to thank you. And once again, thanks for coming down. Are there any other public comments? Reese Atkins?
Reese Atkins, 24 Popular, Battle Creek, Michigan. First of all, I want to apologize. Some of the commissioners did get a packet like this. Some did not because I did not make enough copies. That's my fault. And you're probably wondering, why is this sitting on in front of you? Okay, I have a friend who just came from Benton Harbor. One of the first things she asked is, do we have a senior facility who she is able to go to play bingo, cards, just sit with other senior citizens and quilt, do things like that? And I told her, yes, we do. We have a center, used to be called Brennan Brook Center. It's now called Cool Family Center. Once she came here, which was been about 3 weeks ago, she said, well, I'd like to go down there and see exactly what they got. We went down to what was Brennan Brook Center, now Cool Center. Walked in the door and a gentleman met us and we told him exactly what we wanted, and he said, we don't have anything like that going at this point. What we have is, I will direct you across the lawn to this senior care partner place. We walked in there, it looked like a daycare center for older people. We waited a few minutes, a lady came up and she said, "What can I help you with?" We told her exactly what we're looking for. She said, "Well, you can't just do that." She handed us this packet and she says, "You need to call this young lady on this business card. You need to set up an appointment with her. You need to be approved in order to even come in here with your age, your financial background, and other things that need to be done." So basically what they told us is senior citizens that want to get out and do card games and stuff like that has no place to go, which really is not right. I mean, a lot of our senior citizens like to get out, like my friend. I talked really good about Battle Creek. I love Battle Creek. I remember when Brunenberg Center was first built, when they took down a lot of the nice ice cream place and other facilities that were good, and they built this nice senior complex. Now, apparently they don't do anything. But they tell people that you have to meet a certain pay criteria and a certain other criteria in order to go in there and do what you want. It's really sad that a person puts up and, you know, builds up Battle Creek, and then when a person goes in to try to do it, they're told, "Oh, well, this is not what we do. This is not what we have." It's a shame. So it really would be helpful if this does get looked into, and we do look into something for our senior citizens to do other than sitting at home and do nothing or be told, "Well, if you don't meet the criteria, you still can't do anything." Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reese, for your comments. Any other comments at this time? See none? Oh, I'm sorry. We do have Kathy. I'll call you first.
Thank you for your recognition, Mayor. I'd like to mention 3 things today. And first of all, I was delighted when I showed up and DPW was doing a presentation because, as you all know, I am a huge supporter of our city and city staff, and that happens to be one of my favorite departments, and I do a lot of interaction with them, so thank you very much. My interactions with them are always professional and above board, so I really appreciate that. Today I attended the Homeless Coalition Zoom meeting, and there were a couple of items there that I really just wanted to lift up and bring to your attention. So one of the people opined that at minimum we need 100 affordable housing units in Battle Creek. And everybody rolled their eyes because we really think that's a lowball number. But the point being, in addition to those 100 units, it also became apparent that a number of apartment buildings that have recently been sold or sold in the last year or so, the new owners of those buildings are no longer going to be taking Section 8 vouchers, thank you, which is hugely disappointing because that means there's going to be a whole lot more folks out of homes. So I just had to lift that up and make sure that all of you commissioners have heard that. That came from out of the Homeless Coalition Zoom meeting that we have every month. They have every month. I am listening in there. The other thing I wanted to point out that it's been at least, I believe, 20 years since the city of Battle Creek has since in the city or near the city of Battle Creek has been constructed affordable housing. 20 years, really? Now I know all y'all were some of y'all just went to another state to see what can be done with permanent supportive housing. So I'm like, would you hurry up? You know what I mean? We need something done soon. The other thing that I wanted to lift up is we have in our small community, and I've lived in a lot of big cities, so I would like to say this, in our small community, we have 2 day shelters for the homeless. Why? We definitely need overnight sheltering for many of our residents here in Battle Creek. I totally get that, and 209 is doing a great job. That's 209 East Michigan Avenue. They're doing a great job of that, and I heard them talking about some supportive services they're starting, and that's cool too, but why? For over 30 years, Battle Creek has had the Share Center working to help the underhoused and houseless folks in our community. And not that I'm saying anything against 209, appreciate what they're doing, but why are we duplicating efforts? Why aren't we focusing our efforts on each of these venues and what they can do best? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Are there any other public comments at this time? John?
Before you begin the clock, when Jerry Steiner came up here the first time, you signaled,
Hold it, we're going to have to start the timer.
yeah, go ahead, start the timer. You signaled me out. Thank you for that. I just kind of wonder why. On Friday the 15th of April began the destruction of McKinley Plaza Mall. I did ask some questions, and apparently that approximately 13% of that destruction is paid for by public treasury funds. Now, when they built McKinley Plaza Mall way back in the day, approximately 40 years ago, its purpose and intention was to challenge Lakeview Square Mall, which was in Battle Creek Township. Public funds were used for McKinley Plaza Mall. It was an abysmal failure. It's been a failure for 40 years. I went in there when they first opened up and saw that there was nothing that there was there for me to purchase. It was either something that I wasn't interested in or was out of line where I could afford it somewhere else, so why be there? A lot of taxpayers are paying for this, and just as an example, you spent $1,800,000 because the McKinley Plaza Hotel, while it was operating, couldn't put people on the south side of the building because the railroads tooted their horns according to federal law. So you spent the $1,800,000 and made a quiet zone. They closed. You spent $200,000 because graphic packaging was stopped by one of their bay doors by the railroad, and you had the column paid for with tax dollars and the overhead to allow trucks to go in for a third bay in the middle of that area. They're closed. I've always thought of the government and the city commission as, you've heard of maybe the Midas man, wherever he touched turned to gold. I've always thought of the commission as the lemon man, whatever they touched turned sour and failed. You spent a lot of money rehabbing in 1975, the pedestrian mall downtown, that was a failure. A lot of things went out of business. You destroyed a lot of businesses down there. You probably never read Kunstler's Infill, which is the destruction of inner cities. And basically, $60 million are going to be put towards the hotel. And approximately 11% of that will be public funds. You have a history of not really succeeding. You might want to consider that as an option sometimes not to do things that fail in the future. Thank you very much.
Are there any other public comments at this time? Yes, ma'am.
Cindy Dion, 24 Poplar. I would like to say that if you imagine those school buildings and you imagine converting them into affordable housing, they also have another opportunity. They have a cafeteria, they have auditorium, they have office spaces that could be utilized to bring a lot of the needed services for helping those homeless people and people needing affordable housing. They could be used, the services could be brought right to them to help them transition and make a more positive impact on the community. And I think we're missing a great opportunity by not using those wonderfully architecturally unique buildings in this community to build affordable housing and to put people in those buildings that could also help make it a more positive transition for the people that are going there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comments at this time? Seeing none, are there any commission comments? Commissioner Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. On April 4th, a traffic stop for a nonviolent offense in Grand Rapids led to Patrick Leoya, a black man, being fatally shot. While an investigation is ongoing and we don't know every detail of what happened, the killing of Leoya echoes an all too familiar pattern. Since hearing the news and reading subsequent heartbreaking details, I've spent considerable time considering what we as a city and me as an elected official can do. What we know is this: black and brown people are disproportionately stopped by police on our streets. That's collectively, nationally, whether they are driving, walking, or biking. And in too many instances, these stops have led to harassment and even death. And everyone deserves to feel safe. I know that we believe that. I know our police department believes that. I want to get us in a more proactive position around these things. And I was looking at the NACDA, which is the National Association of City Transportation Officials policy platform that includes recommendations I think we might want to explore. Ones that I'd specifically like to lift up highlights what we could do to keep people safe on our streets. Their policy recommendation is to eliminate most traffic stops and transportation-based interactions with law enforcement and shift traffic safety resources to the most effective, equitable strategies, such as prioritizing non-police interventions, repealing laws, regulations, and standard operating procedures that penalize walking, biking, and using public space, as well as those that enable pretextual motor vehicle stops for vehicle violations and behaviors that have not been shown to cause serious injury or death. We know too well, just by reading the news, listening, what happens, and we need to be in a better position to know what to do with our local community. I think it requires things like what we heard tonight. I want to applaud our PD for doing the training that they're talking about by providing tasers to our officers. And there is more we can do to think about what policies and practices we have in place that might help us minimize any risk of this happening here in Battle Creek. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, for your comments. Are there any other comments by the Commission at this time? Commissioner Blood.
Thank you. I'm not sure who's working the cameras, but while I speak, if you can have the camera on our interpreter, that would be fantastic. So I want to say thank you to our deaf community for being here today. And I appreciate the forward thinking that it took to include and create an inclusive environment for those who want to participate and can't under circumstances that the rest of us can. So I hope this is just a step in the right direction and that we continue to expand how we include our community members by ensuring that they're able to participate in the simplest of forms. So thank you to those members who were so brave and vulnerable to make themselves a space for themselves when we could have made a space for them. So I hope we continue to do that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other Commission comments at this time? Seeing none, we'll declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you for attending.